to our seats. Welcome to Journey Home Meditation. It's Wednesday, all things equal day. It's the middle of the work week or school week or calendar week, whichever week you're looking at. It's the middle. And this is one of my favorite observances, is the center, right? The middle of the week. I don't know why, but it is. So let's bring ourselves into our meditation posture. Move around for a second if you need. I find it's much easier to strike balance when I've already moved my body a bit and worked out any of the tangled places, the entanglements. I've worked out any knots. So if you haven't already had some morning movement, go ahead and move around for just a moment. And we'll begin finding our balance. If you're sitting on a mat or pillow on the floor with your legs crossed, or sitting in a bed or couch, lying in Shavasana, or you're sitting in a chair like I am, we'll go ahead and find the best position we can to elongate the spine. You may want to put a folded towel or a small pillow underneath you or directly behind the lower back. And this can help to give a bit of lift to the hips and let you sit on your sits bone properly. And breathe. I want to check in with your body and just find any places where you might need to give some extra awareness. Any place that's tense and maybe won't relax as easily. Just give it some intention. I'm going to pull my shoulder blades together, opening my chest and my heart space. I'm not going to keep them pinched, but that beginning motion of pulling the chest open and then relaxing allows for a bit more opening in our front muscles, a bit more relaxation. Today we'll start with the feet. Check in with the toes, relax them, the feet, the ankles. We don't need to spend a long time here on any one part. If we can just move through, and if you get to a space where you need to do some extra work, that's okay. You know where this is going and you can catch up. Calves and shins, knees and thighs. Hips, buttocks, groin, lower abdominals, lower back, stomach, middle back. Check in that you're using your diaphragm to breathe. Give yourself a nice, deep, slow inhale and calm, controlled exhale. It'll feel good. Let's do another. Love your diaphragm, and your diaphragm will love you. Let's go with the chest and upper back, collarbone, shoulder blades, shoulders, upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, hands and fingers. If you'd like, you can give them a quick clench, make a tight fist, hold it for just a moment. One inhale, and on the exhale, release and fold the hands together. I rest my hands in this position, my right hand laying on top of my left. You can also do your left hand laying on top of your right. I have the tips of my thumbs touching, just gently, just enough to give the sensation. Go to the neck, throat, jaw. Let the tongue fall away from the roof of the mouth. The nose, eyes, gently closed, or if you prefer, slightly open with a gaze 3 or 4 feet in front of you, soft gaze. Eyebrows, forehead, ears, back of the head. And now as we check in with our crown, we'll begin the meditation and breathing by envisioning the top of our head and the soft open spot, emitting a fountain of light. And the light falls all around your body. Giving your entire being a soft glow. Sit here and breathe in and out of the nose while you radiate. Let's follow the soft glow back into the top of the head and follow it all the way down. It's coming from the top of the head, straight down through the spine, behind the third eye. Sit there for just a moment. Bring the focus just behind the third eye. Follow the light down through the sinuses, behind the mouth, right into the throat, and be there. And bring the awareness down the light from the throat to the heart, through the chest, the lungs. When you arrive at the heart space, just breathe right there. Let's go from the heart space just down between the belly button and the heart. This region's called the solar plexus. And we'll go all the way down to the very base of your trunk, into the root. This is that place right at the tip of the bottom of your spine. To the perineum. And this is going to bring us into our breathing exercise for today. We're going to do what's called spinal breathing. Bringing our awareness into that tip of the bottom of our spine. You want to flex those muscles right there, just lightly. 1 time, 2 times. Just enough to bring the sensation and the awareness there. And from this base, from this root, when we breathe in, we're going to bring the awareness as if the breath is filling us up. We're a vessel from that root up through the stomach, the heart, the lungs, the throat, the nasal cavity, right to the back of that third eye. And then when we breathe out, we'll empty. Third eye through the nose, the mouth, the throat, the lungs, the heart, the stomach, the solar plexus into the root. And we'll do 5 breaths like this. So spine straight, eyes closed, and as we inhale, bring your awareness from that root, the tip of that bottom of the spine, all the way up slowly to the top of the breath, right behind the eyebrow. And we'll begin. And release. And inhale. And release. And in. And release. In. And release. Last one. From the root, the bottom of the spine. Hold. And release. Now just breathe. Bring your awareness into your body. And we'll sit here in silence for a few moments. Let's bring our awareness to our breath. I'm breathing in. I am breathing out. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. In. Out. Now again, bring your awareness all the way to the bottom of the spine. Continue to breathe. And we're going to move up the body with each in-breath. And as we breathe out, we're going to bring the feeling, the sensation of that light that's been glowing and emanating through our body strongly up the body with us with each out-breath. So begin at the root, the very bottom of the spine. Breathe into it. Now bring that light up into the solar plexus, the stomach. Breathe into it. And up into the heart. Breathe into the heart. And up through the chest into the throat. We're focusing on the throat. Breathe into the throat. And up into the third eye. Focusing on the third eye. Now as we breathe out, we're going to breathe right into the top of our head. One more breath. We'll breathe in deep, right into the top of our head. And as we breathe out, fully release, allowing all of that light to cascade over you. One more of those. You can open your eyes. Okay. Whew. That was cold this morning. Okay, welcome back. I can hear you much better now because I don't have my headphones going through my hoodie and my beanie. That practice warmed me up a bit. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to Journey Home Meditation. So we just did a meditation on the chakras. You may have heard of the chakras, you may be familiar with them, and you may not. That's okay. That's why I didn't use any of the Sanskrit names for the chakras. I just used the names we're familiar with, our own body, right? But essentially, what a chakra is, just a really brief touching in case somebody has heard the word maybe but doesn't exactly understand or know the concept. A chakra is a wheel of energy, a generator of energy of different types. And the reason that we have this notion of these chakras as kind of a superimposed idea of energy spaces gives us the ability to focus on something in each part of our bodies, up and down our spine. And there's a lot of writings on this, a lot of, like thousands of years. The Upanishads talk about this, the 108 Upanishads, and there's that number again, 108. They mention the chakras in many of the Upanishads. And with that practice that we're doing, that deep spinal breath, we are bringing our awareness all through our body, through our spine. You know, our spine is like the river of life for us. It brings all of our nerves, brings sacred waters, spinal fluid, up and down, in and out. And this transmits pretty much all of our sensations, right? And not only does it transmit the sensations of our sensory, of the five senses, but it also is participating in moving the energy through our body that is responsible for other sensations. Sensations such as intuition. Right? Intuition is not one of the five senses, but it's very real. It's something we all have. That gut feeling, right? You know, the millions of nerve endings in our guts. Maybe billions. I don't know. I'm not a rocket surgeon. But it's these energy movements, this type of understanding of our body's capabilities, things like intuition, things like time sensory, right? Things like memory. All of these are connected through the river of life, through our spine, right? And so by breathing, doing the spinal breath, we are actively moving the awareness that the prana we're bringing in with our breath, the energy, the life-giving force that breath is, spirit, we are actively becoming aware of how it affects each place along that spine, right? And moving that up and down brings us into a deeper awareness of our body. Okay, and this is why we do a body scan in the beginning of a meditation, to look for any blocks, look for any tension or entanglement. And this practice of spinal breath, this is something you can do for a brief period of time, 5, 6, 7 breaths. There's 7 chakras along that spine, and each of those chakras are purported to have their own series of nadis and even more chakras. But that's for a deeper discussion, and that's where it starts to get really engrossing into you get really engrossed into the wholeness of the Upanishads and the Vedic practices and some of the New Age sciences as well. Let's not completely discount the New Age. It's not only the things that are old that are valuable. It's not only those things. But we do have to take into account that if these practices, these lessons, these learnings have survived for 6,000 plus years. 6,000 is just the estimation of the oldest texts and documentation that we have, but this probably means that it goes back much, much, much further, right? Right. Our grasp of time is pretty faulty when we look at our historical record. Basing the historical record upon things that you can find that are still around when everything that we know is a temporary and decaying world. You know, bodies decay, plants decay, wood decays, stone breaks down. Everything is changing all the time. And basing all of our belief in the length of time based upon what we can find, we're only basing upon what has not yet decayed. Okay, that's kind of like saying, if we only go by written history, that you didn't exist before you wrote your name. You know, what were you, 4 or 5 years old? First time you were able to write down something. Prior to that, you didn't exist. There was no you. Or if you want to go a little older, then maybe you found a chew toy from when you were a baby. But prior to that, you know, that chew toy, when you were 2 years old, a year and a half, a year, whatever, you didn't exist. Right. So basing all of this off of the archaeological record is a bit failed. However, the combining the modern sciences we have with the ancient wisdom and texts and the old sciences, we can come to a pretty good understanding of our bodies, and we can come to a pretty good understanding that these practices that have lasted this long last for a reason, right? I don't think it's blind faith that keeps a belief alive for hundreds of generations. If I only look at the things that my parents believed that I don't, it's easy enough to understand how a belief in something that is no longer bringing you to a higher place or to a better place, right? It dies. And there are only two kinds of beliefs, right? There are only two kinds of beliefs. There's beliefs that benefit us, and there's beliefs that keep us trapped. So there's beliefs that are helpful, that help move us forward, that propagate life, that propagate creativity. There's those beliefs. And then there's the beliefs that terrify us, and the beliefs that harm us, and the beliefs that stop us in our tracks. And when we hear things like evolution, oftentimes we think that evolution means getting better, always getting better. It's not always the case. Evolution doesn't mean getting better. Evolution means adapting, changing, right? Something that has evolved is not necessarily better. It's just maybe more suited for the particular environment at that time. But that also means that if the particular environment of that time is one of toxicity, then being more evolved might mean being more evolved to adapt to a toxic life. And there's different levels that we think about when we think of evolution, right? We think about, species, entire species evolving, changing over hundreds and hundreds of generations, thousands of generations, millions of years. Sure, that's almost beyond the grasp of thought. Like, we can think about that, but can you really envision that? Well, yes, we can. Because there's also other types of evolution that take place on lower levels. So it's because of the smaller microcosms that we can begin to understand the macrocosm, right? So when we are practicing the breath coming up and down the spine. We're practicing imagining, seeing this thing moving up and down, right? So our focus and our attention is on what we can understand visually and what we can picture in our mind. Picturing the light moving up and down, picturing the breath filling and emptying like a glass. Those are all mental images that we're using. But that's a microcosm. That's one small function that represents what's actually happening on a different level, on a higher level maybe, which is that the breath is moving into the body through the lungs, filling the capillaries, coming out much like water, that cascades from the mountains through the rivers into the ocean. And then we see it empty, just like we see every summer, as we see water levels lower on land, and then in the winter they rise again. We see this ebb and flow, right? So this is how we can use the smaller bits of understanding to understand the greater things, because they are all representative of each other. Because everything is what is, no matter how it is we want to look at it. And I know a lot of people get annoyed with "it is what it is." I get that. That's a silly thing to say, I guess. But I think maybe we can understand the idea there. But I'd love to hear your experiences with that spinal breath, and how do you feel? Check in with your body right now. I can say that for myself, just in doing that brief meditation and that brief breathing practice, I can feel my energy has kind of moved into my body. It's almost like I just drank my morning coffee, even though I haven't had coffee. I just started drinking my tea just a moment ago. But I think it's an amazing testament to the power that these intentional practices of breath, these biological functions have, right? The way our physiology works, that we can actually move beyond just the unconscious breathing in and out as a simple body function into a technique, a tool, a technology. Right? We can create a technology where we are now moving into our body's actual systems, a lymphatic system. So each of those chakras, as we come up and down the spine, all along the way, there's pituitary glands. There's things that secrete hormones and chemicals, giving us different feelings, different types of energy. There's hormones that secrete adrenaline, right? They give us a rush when we are in danger. There's hormones that secrete serotonin, dopamine. Right? There's these glands up and down the spine, up and down the body, that secrete these different things. There's the pineal gland that secretes what some say is similar to DMT, right? And melatonin. Okay, so as we breathe and bring our awareness to those things, is it possible that we are actually tapping into our own body to activate certain parts of our body? It appears so to me. But maybe the exercise for you was lackluster. Maybe it didn't feel any of that. It just gave you a few moments of silence and rest. But feel free to share. I've opened the chat into the video screen. Share if you have any thoughts on how the body felt before our practice this morning and how you feel now, if you'd like. So that practice that we did of moving through these different parts of our body, the chakras. Chakra translates to wheel, right? So you can envision a wheel spinning, generating, like an alternator would spin to generate energy. There is another practice that goes along with the chakras that I'm going to be going into a deeper class soon, sometime in the next month or two, on our Facebook group. There'll be a brief class on the practice. It's called Kundalini, right? Kundalini is something I'm sure you've heard. It's the practice of moving our energy up and down the spine, up and down those chakras. It's got a few different names: the seven fires, the practice, the breath of seven fires, the practice of the seven serpents. And you've seen images a lot in your life that maybe you weren't even aware. I wasn't aware until I started learning these things that it's referencing to Kundalini. You know, when we see the serpent on the staff, and the way that we approach medical healing in a lot of ways is related to this. But I'm going to do maybe an hour or two long session on the Facebook group, doing a Kundalini meditation. And that'll just be for members of that group. So if you aren't on Facebook, you can message me and we can figure out a way for me to stream this both to the group and maybe to a personal channel for you. But also, following these classes, I'm also going to be doing some Patreon supporter classes as well. Some little more in-depth touching in. Now, the purpose of Journey Home Meditation is to build a community, and I want to be really mindful that I'm not creating content that is specifically for an elite group of any sort. This comes down more to logistics, really, like doing a longer class through these other platforms. It's not going to work the same because I'm going to want to utilize the ability to bring people in on the video and have conversations. So I haven't figured out the functionality of that yet, but like, oops, sorry, there we go. But yeah, that will be the plan. You certainly don't have to be a Patreon supporter to benefit from the offerings that Journey Home is making. However, we are very grateful for any support that we receive, whether it's just showing up to the class, sharing the videos, liking the videos, or providing financial support. In whatever ways you're supporting, I am very grateful. So that's all to say. Check out the group if you haven't yet. It's called Journey Home Sangha. That's Sangha. And for those who aren't familiar with that term, a Sangha is a community based around the practices of meditation, and it comes from Buddhist practices. You know, the Sangha is the community of people who are practicing. Not necessarily all monks and nuns. Sanghas look different everywhere you go. But we decided to call this gathering a Sangha because I feel like I want to cultivate that similar space of a community who comes together to decipher different ideas and share our practices with one another, because there's so many practices I don't know of and practices that I'd love to learn, and there's so many practices that help me that may not do anything for you. And so as we build a community, we're going to be removing any sort of top-down kind of teaching where it's just me. Hopefully the plan is that we're all going to come to the community and build trust with one another in a way that we can all take the reins in teaching and sharing lessons that we have to share. So check that out. Journey Home Sangha. It's a group on Facebook. Answer the questions if you can. They help me to understand where you're coming from. And we'll get moving through that. So let's check in here on the text. Let's see. Silas, good morning, Brother Silas, says, I can honestly say today is the first time I lost all track of time. I didn't even realize I was 45 minutes in. And excellent. What a fresh breath of air. Awesome. Yeah, that's awesome, right? And it really brings into question what time is in general. Like it's just it's like I almost feel like we're time travelers. Pardon me. How we can turn one practice can turn 3 minutes into this really long thing, and it can take 45 minutes and condense it down so short. Man, sorry, I have a bit of a tickle in my throat. Let's see. Trice, good morning, my brother. Says, my body's a bit slow this morning, but it's working. Yeah, mine too. Mine was definitely slow. It's very chilly this morning. As you can see, I'm wearing a hoodie and I had my hat on. But yeah, but the practice, the practice of moving our energy up and down the spine intentionally with our breath, coordinating our awareness to our breath, to our body. This is the crux, right? This is the point where all of these things converge, and next thing we have is awareness is on an entirely different level. So I'm just really appreciative of these practices. It's 80 degrees and humid there. It was snowing again yesterday, and this morning there was a layer of ice on all of the puddles here. It's a very strange year here in Southern Oregon. But okay, well, that's bringing us to almost the hour. So, let's do the thing. Let's bring our hands together in the recognized position of gratitude and prayer. I'm going to say thank you. And my gratitude today is for the Sangha, for the community of people that we have here. Good morning, Annie. Thank you for joining. I'm glad you jumped in on the chat this morning. Annie is one of our awesome supporters in Patreon as well. So meet the crew. I think you've been here before with them, but okay. And that's what I was just saying. Giving gratitude for the Sangha, for the community. Because it's the community that keeps me coming back and able to focus. And for that, I am ever grateful. And my prayer today is that may all breathe deeply and with awareness. May all breathe deeply with awareness. I once read an account of somebody asking a Buddhist monk, and it may have even been Thich Nhat Hanh who was being asked about the monks and the nuns in the monastery. And an outsider was doing a report, a paper on them, and he said, so what do you do all day? What do these monks and these nuns do? And the answer of the the Buddhist priest, and I'm not sure exactly who it was, so I don't want to falsely attribute it to Thich Nhat Hanh, but I think it was Thich Nhat Hanh. But he says, well, we breathe in and out, we eat, we drink, we work, and we sleep. And the reporter says, well, everybody does that. And he said, yes, but we know that we are breathing. We know when we are drinking. We know when we are eating. We know when we are working. And we know when we are sleeping. And this makes all the difference. And it took me a lot of years of cultivating a practice of mindfulness, and I'm just now beginning to become aware of what that really looks like, what that really can mean. So maybe for today, take this practice that we have, being aware of the breath, and bring that into your next cup of tea or your next cup of coffee or glass of water. Just sit with it and really be aware of every step of taking that drink. Just try that for today. Maybe just one cup of tea, one cup of coffee, one cup of water, whatever it is. Really sit and be aware of each drink and every sensation that comes with it. And the experience of having that drink will bring a vitality and a life that you maybe weren't aware was occurring every single time you drink. And that interaction, that brings wonder, that brings awe and curiosity. So give that a shot today. Thank you all for joining me on this journey home. You can check us out on all the social medias. We're on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And I know it looks like I'm like really busy doing a lot of different things, but there's some pretty easy ways to streamline these things. But I do spend a couple hours a day on the computer doing these things, but that's okay. I'm very active out otherwise, so I'm grateful to be able to be here and doing this. So check us out, support it if you can. Thank you so much. Adi Om Tat Sat.